All right, so this is a live demonstration of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm just sort of showing a little bit about how this game has unfolded. I talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake was an entirely sort of linear type game. It had a few areas where you could run around and do a few quests, but it was more or less a linear game in the style of Final Fantasy XIII or even The Last of Us or something like that, where you kind of move through an area, fighting things, fight a boss at the end, move on to the next area. This game is taking an approach that's more open world, and it reminds me a little bit of Ghost of Tsushima in that it's not going to be one gigantic world to explore all at once. It's going to be a series of smaller contained spaces, but those will be treated as open world while you're in them. So this, for example, is the Grasslands, which is the first area that I got to. And all of these little icons that you see here that are gray. These are all little things that I've defeated. And it's got all the kind of standard open world stuff, like these are all little areas where you had to use the chocobo to dig for something. These are all areas where you had to fight something. These were towers that you had to unlock. These were like treasure places with treasure chests. And then there were quests. There were 5 quests, mini quests, basically. I completed all of those. I've basically done every single thing I can do here in the Grasslands, and I'm going to move on next. I actually just beat the boss down here, which is the big snake that guards the swamp. I beat that. I'm going to show that at the end of this video, and then after that, I'm going to leave this area through here. I don't know if it's going to let me come back here or not. I tried to do I'm sure it will eventually. I don't know if it's going to let me come back immediately. So I tried to do everything I could possibly do here before leaving. Here's my party. You can see I'm controlling Cloud, although I think you control anyone if you want to. Tifa and Barret are sort of standing close to me, and Red 13 and Aerith are standing away from me. And the reason is because I've just set my party to be Tifa and Barret. I don't know. For now, I'm going to see if I can just play the entire game with these 3. I don't know if the game is going to force me at some point to involve Aerith or Red 13, but it is more complicated with equipment and having to trade materia around. It's just a lot more complicated to have 5 characters equipped. So I'm going to try to I picked the 3 that I like the most. I'm going to try to just use those. You can see here's an example of like a overworld resource that I can run over and grab. Now the cool thing though is that even though I've chosen these two still are always kind of around. So they show up in any sort of cinematic scene. They're always kind of there. And one thing I've noticed is that they even participate in the battles. They're just controlled by AI, and they tend to keep their distance. You don't see them hogging up the screen, but I would occasionally see off in the distance like Aerith shooting a magic spell at the enemy. So that's kind of good for story purposes. It kind of keeps you thinking that like this is really a party of 5, not 3. So here's just an example of a random encounter. You can see down there we've got 3 enemies. It's not like old school Final Fantasy where the screen will flash and you go into a battle screen. Those are the 3 down there. If I approach them, we'll fight. So I'll run down. That'll trigger the battle. So now we're in the battle, because the music changed. And I can basically run around with Cloud. I can attack. I can do fancy items. And when I go to my menu, time slows down. So it's kind of like old school Final Fantasy in that respect. You have time to sort of pick what you want. So I'm going to do a triple slash, okay? And then as soon as I execute the triple slash, I'm going to press down.
Deal with that.
And that wasn't a very hard battle, so that wasn't a very great example. Let me look for something that might last a little longer. Part of the problem is I'm kind of, like I said, I'm sort of at the end of this area. So The time has come. But anyway, okay, so as soon as I start this battle, I'm going to press down on the controller. And what that's going to do is it's going to take me off of Cloud and switch me to Tifa.
Take the lead.
See, so now I'm Tifa. So now I can run around, fight some things. I can use Tifa's moves. And then I press down again. And now I'm Barret. And I can do Barret's moves. And then I can press down, and now I'm Cloud again.
Hell yeah!
And I can run around with Cloud. Now, there's two ways you can fight. You can control just one character and give commands to the other two. Or you can do what I just did and keep pressing down to switch between them. And I like to press down to switch between them because it sort of simulates the old turn-based strategy. And also, it solves one of the problems that I've long had with games like Final Fantasy 15 and even Dark Souls to some extent, which is I feel like when you have partners, you can't enjoy them or appreciate them. Because if you're like me, you can't even see what they're doing because you're so concerned about yourself and what you're doing. The only way you could ever see what your partners were doing was if you could somehow watch a recording of the battle after it was over and be able to move the camera around and sort of look and say, oh yeah, there's where he hit that awesome move right there. Normally, the partners just blur into the chaos and I have no idea what they're doing. That was a big problem with Final Fantasy 15. You controlled one guy, you had these three friends, and it was supposed to be this big foursome and all of these awesome battles that they had together. But I could never appreciate what my friends were doing or even see them do anything because it just got lost. Maybe other people with greater awareness are able to take it in, but I'm not able to take it in. So with this game, what I like is that I can just be Barret, I can just be Tifa. And as soon as you switch to them, then Cloud just becomes controlled by the computer. So what I usually do is I stick with a character long enough to unleash like one attack, and then I switch to the next character. So here, Cloud will do Braver, and then we'll switch. Okay, Tifa will do Focus Strike, and then we'll switch. Barret will do Maximum Fury. And then that's it. Alright, so I've already defeated the boss of this, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna splice that onto the end of this video so you can see what a boss fight looks like. And maybe I'll talk over that one. But that one won't be live recording, that'll be me talking over something I've already done. Okay, that's it. Alright, so here I am speaking over recording. This is actually not the boss battle for this area, but it is a slightly, maybe call it a mini boss. One of the dumb little stories was me messing around with these guys, and now I have to fight them plus this big machine. So you can just sort of see, like, with Cloud, well, the basic way the battles work is if you look at the bottom right, you can see the three names, Cloud, Tifa, Barret, and you can see, like, there's a big yellow meter, and then below it, there are these meters that are black, but are turning blue. So, sorry, this is me scanning. The meters that are black but are turning blue, those are your, what's called ATB gauge, active time battle. Now, in the old school Final Fantasies, they had ATB meters too, and when the ATB meter filled up, that's when you basically got a turn to do anything. But the way they've changed it in this game is, when the ATB meter fills up, you can do a special move off the menu. And when you have no ATB, that's when you can just do regular attacks and dodges. And it's actually regular attacks and dodges that build the ATB meter. It builds a little bit with time, but attacks and dodges speed it up. So what I would do is, I would take turns as each character, fighting until I got enough ATB to do a move. Then I would do a move, and then I would switch to the next character. and keep battling. And so, even though it's like a live action, it really is a lot. It really does. It's not that different from the old school style. It's really not about, you know, live action fighting. You're kind of moving around and you're attacking a little bit, but the only reason you're doing that is because you're trying to build up your meters. And then you're going to let loose with some kind of menu attack that's going to connect automatically and probably do a lot of damage. And then even though the game has some ways to dodge and evade, at least on normal mode difficulty, you don't really have to focus on it that much. You can basically just get hit and use your heal abilities to recover HP. So Barrett is actually my healer because he has the ability Pray, which I'm going to use right now, I think, yeah. And that heals a little bit of HP on all three characters. And I just, pretty much my strategy at this point is to have Cloud and Tifa use offense with their ATB, and to have Barrett just use Pray every time with his ATB. Cloud and Tifa need to attack closely, like they're melee fighters, whereas Barrett can attack from a distance. But they're also pretty good at sort of automatically closing the distance if you just start pressing attack. So a lot of times, right when I switch turns to whoever the new person is, I just start hitting attack, and they'll kind of home in on the nearest enemy and start hitting them. Tifa's probably, she definitely has the least reach. So with her, I sometimes have to run her over to whoever we're going to start fighting.
Don't overdo it.
And then it's strange because I usually aim my menu attacks at a precise target, you know, usually one at a time, trying to kill enemies in a precise order. But in terms of just the random attacks that I do to build up the ATB so I can use the menu, those I just hit whoever's nearest. I'm really just hitting things to try to build up ATB. Alright, so that's the end of that battle, and we're going to cut straight to this, and now this is the boss of the area. This is like the big boss battle. And this is a good battle. It was harder. It pushed my characters further. It did have some cinematic elements, although it didn't have the thing where, you know, you got to push the button at the right moment. Well, we'll see. You'll see in a moment here.
Hey, get back here right now!
I don't even remember if you have to fight this thing in the original Final Fantasy VII. I always thought that if you walked across the swamp without the chocobo, it would attack you, and it was so strong that it would beat you. And so, if you ran across with a chocobo, you didn't have to fight it. That's how I'm remembering it. I could be wrong about that.
Deal with that.
But in this game, you do have to fight it. It's a big boss. So it's a giant snake, and I'm doing the same basic thing, switching back and forth between the characters. Every time it's a new character's turn, I go to get a few hits until it builds up a meter, and then I pick a move. Now, in terms of the moves that you can do, the menu-based moves, there are a wide variety of attacking type moves, but there's also items and spells. So just traditional items like Potion, High Potion, Phoenix Down, you have to have an ATB meter filled up to use those. And to cast magic, you have to have an ATB meter filled up to do that. And when you do cast magic, it costs MP. Magic is generally the strongest. You can see there's something sort of cinematic going on right here. with an attack that he's about to do.
Always this cold.
Not good. Everyone, keep your distance.
The right, so to cast magic also takes ATB, so you gotta fill that up too. And the game's got all the usual magic spells: cure, fire, ice, lightning, poison, wind, that kind of stuff. But one thing I've been doing for the entire game so far is I've been relying on Barret and his Prey to heal me. Now, Prey is just a materia, and anyone could have it, but I put it on Barret. If Aerith was playing, I would put it on her, but since I've got Barret, he's using it. And
Let's do this.
Prey doesn't cost MP, and it heals all 3 people at once, but it doesn't heal that much. And I've made it a routine to just kind of use it, and for that to be the only healing that I do. And until this boss, that was generally enough. But this boss actually beat my guys down. Well, first of all, something happens right here. You can see Barret's name is no longer on the menu because the snake has eaten Barret. And we have to like take a certain amount of damage for him to let go of Barret. So for at least a short while, I'm gonna have no healing. And people are taking damage and we're not recovering. So when Barret does finally come back out, I think we're gonna be in trouble. You can see the boss has about half of his energy left, and he's in a status which is called pressured, which is that orange bar. Pressure is like a midway state on the way to stagger. And then once they're staggered, okay, he just spit Barret out. And once they're staggered, they take a lot of damage.
Deal with that.
Here's another cinematic attack. Only the big bosses, I guess, have these kind of cinematics in between. And you notice I didn't have to interact with that cinematic, it just was something to watch for a moment.
Something tells me this thing ain't messing around.
So you do the Prey. Yeah, so whatever that was that he just hit us with, see, that hurt really bad, and now the screen has kind of a red haze on it, which is telling me that someone's about to die. So I started in desperation. I couldn't wait for Barret's Prey, so here I am trying to figure out how to give a command to a character that I'm not playing, but I couldn't figure it out. So we have to switch. I'm going to go to Tifa. She's the only one that has an ATB bar complete. I'm going to go to her and I'm going to try to use an item, high potion. I look to see if there's a better item, but there's not, so I'll give a high potion to somebody. Whoever is weakest. I don't know why I'm taking so long. Okay, there we go. So probably the Barret, yeah. And then switch to Barret, and then with Barret I'm going to do the same thing, give a high potion to Cloud, I guess. And then that should get me back into a safe range so I can rely on Prey for the rest of the fight. No, I'm going to use a Cure with Cloud. Cloud has the traditional Cure spell, which is a lot stronger than Prey, but I'm going to watch that first. Okay, now he's staggered, so now we're just going to lay on massive damage, which Tifa is actually, believe it or not, the strongest character who could do the most damage. So we use Tifa, and there we go, we killed him off. So, not hugely hard, but fun. Good Final Fantasy fun. Way better than Final Fantasy 16. Way better. Now you get to enjoy this dramatic scene. Don't worry, Cloud will be okay. I know because I played ahead.